Experts on religion say that there are thousands of sects or denominations of Christianity. And when I say thousands, I mean some estimates are upwards of 45,000 sects, which is absolutely crazy to me. About as crazy as how many bugs there are. Holy cow. And what's crazy is they all come down to one book. They all come down to the Bible. By contrast, or in comparison, Mormonism, which was established in 1830, and so it's been around for just under 200 years, experts are saying there's somewhere between 70 and 150 different sects of Mormonism, the most dominant being the LDS Church. And the reason I bring those numbers up is because I think there is a correlation between the reason why people are leaving religion and why there are so many religions. I know there are a ton of different theories as to why people are leaving religion. I have read a ton of different books that all have slightly different takes on it. And, I'm not an expert in this, but I've read a lot and I have my own experience. So I wanted to share the reason why I think this is happening. And it comes down to two things. A complete drop-off of the idea of symbolism and metaphor, and the demand for uniformity. I think the two of those two things put together create a huge problem. And so in order to explain what I'm trying to say here, I need to back up a little bit. Biblical scholars don't agree on everything, but they do agree that not everything in the Bible is meant to be historical. There are definitely stories that are meant to be understood metaphorically, allegorically, and then there are those that are supposed to be seen as historical events. And whether or not they really happened or not, that's where they start to disagree. But biblical scholars will agree that not every story is meant to be seen as literal historical fact. But the problem is that during the Reformation, people like Martin Luther, and we got a lot of great things from the Reformation. I'm not saying that it was all negative, but one side effect that happened from the Reformation was this demand for literalism, a literal reading of the Bible, and a fundamentalist approach to that. And that, ever since that happened, that's when the vast majority of all of these schisms happened. All of these different denominations and sects were formed from that original Christianity. And there were schisms that happened before, but what I'm trying to say is something special happened then. And I think it's this demand for literalism, this demand for exactness. And so all of these schisms that happened were because they disagreed on the interpretation of these symbolic stories. And so each interpretation demanded another denomination. And now, bringing it to today, we have an obsession with being right. We have an obsession with certainty, with doctrine, with exactness, with orthodoxy. And so we see religions drawing lines around the people, things, and ideas that they want to include in their orthodoxy and in their orthopraxy. And in that drawing of lines, we see exclusion of different interpretations. And it's in the exclusion that we see the problem. Because in my opinion, there is a tremendous amount of beauty and value and truth in these stories that come from the Bible, from these holy texts. It doesn't even have to be just the Bible, but any allegorical story that has survived for thousands of years. That I think when we try and attribute one singular meaning, we are missing something. We are missing the beauty of what it was created to convey. And so I can't help but think that when we try and limit the ways that we interpret the parables, we're missing out on a lot. But that's unfortunately one of the byproducts of the Reformation, was this fundamentalist approach to needing firm doctrine and ridding ourselves of symbolic teachings and the plethora of interpretations that can come from metaphor. And now, on the flip side of religion, we're also getting the same thing. When people leave religion, they often, look down on or scorn the people that wanted that one interpretation. They wanted the one truth. And then they will cling to science that is also selling them the one truth. But that's the thing, is that science isn't doing that. It has the illusion, people cling to the illusion that that's what science is doing, but science, real science, is never dogmatic. It is never certain. It is always looking for new information and bringing in new information regardless of whether or not we thought one way before. It is always open to new data and new findings. Science is not dogmatic that way. But yet a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people that leave religion want that. I know that it's a paradox that I'm talking about. I know that it's paradoxical that I think that people are leaving religion because of the demand for uniformity of interpretation, and yet that many people that leave religion want that uniformity of thought from science. I know that there's a paradox there. And so what I think we are losing on both the religious side and the secular side and the scientific side is story, is metaphor, is allegory, is parable. I think we are missing out on those things. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think as a society, as humanity, we are slowly losing the beauty and the truth that comes from story, that comes from metaphor. And I've said this before, is that I think our desire for certainty is ruining our ability to find something closer to the truth. That when we want something certain, we close ourselves off to different interpretations. We close ourselves off to growth and progress. And that is both on the religious side and on the secular side. When we take these stories, when we take metaphor and we remove alternative interpretations and we try and box in the meaning of these stories to mean one singular thing, and we call that thing truth, we're missing out on the power of stories. We're missing out on the power of allegories and parables. And I think that's a big mistake. And so I hope this was interesting to you, because I really think that the value of stories is falling out. And, I wanted to talk about how that's a problem in religion, but it's also a problem in secular society. Like, stories have been around for as long as I assume we could communicate. And there's a reason behind that, and because story is powerful. And I think we lose that when we try and grasp at singular interpretations and uniformity. So anyways, I hope that was interesting. If it was, stick around. I'll catch you in the next video.